It's 1901, and a 20-year-old Pablo Picasso begins painting beggars, drunks, and hospital patients. The subjects are all sorrowful, which isn't uncommon. What does stand out, however, is that they are cloaked in blue, all shades of it. A few years later, this melancholic blue palette falls back and warm shades of pink and orange take over. This time, the subjects depicted are acrobats, artists, and circus performers from the 3 permanent circuses near Montmartre, where Picasso lived at the time. These 2 periods will be known as Picasso's most pivotal ones, his blue and rose period. Born in Malaga, Spain, Pablo Picasso demonstrated incredible artistic talent at the young age of 7. His father, José Ruiz, who was a painter and a professor of art, provided him with formal artistic training. Upon coming across one of Picasso's paintings that he had done over his father's sketch of a pigeon, Ruiz felt his 13-year-old son's advanced techniques had already surpassed him. He was then admitted into the School of Fine Arts in Barcelona. Younger and more passionate than his classmates, he enrolled in advanced classes. There, he made friends with a group of modernist artists, writers, and poets, including Carlos Casagemas, a Catalan painter and poet. They quickly grew close. He accompanied Picasso to Paris for the World's Fair in 1900. There he fell in love with Germaine Gargallo, who ultimately rejected his affections. Disheartened, Casagemas committed suicide at the Hippodrome Café in Paris after first attempting to kill Germaine. Picasso was in Barcelona when he heard about the death of his best friend. He returned to Paris and decided to stay in Casagemas' apartment and began a relationship with Germaine. Grief-stricken, Picasso became depressed, perhaps due to the feelings of guilt over having abandoned his friends in his darkest hours, or betrayal of now being with the woman who broke his heart. This marked the beginning of the Blue Period. His theme grew somber and dark, and he began creating essentially monochromatic paintings in the many hues of blue. The works in this period depict subjects under unfortunate circumstances, in scenes of poverty, loneliness, and despair. These images have an air of melancholy that is evident, but also a deep gravity. Despite the individual's troubling circumstances, they exude a strong sense of dignity. Picasso elongated the subject's forms, endowing them with a unique sense of enticing allure and grace. Picasso's Blue Period is very popular with the general public today, but not back then. He wasn't yet the famous artist we all know. At the time, he had difficulty selling them. He even reused canvases, painting over them several times due to lack of funds. These profound images are Picasso's multi-layered response to the social and political events around him, addressing symbolic, philosophical, and humanitarian themes. The most celebrated piece from this period is this 6-foot painting, La Vie. It's a bit puzzling at first glance. There are many subjects that the eye wants to look at. A spectrum of dusty dark blues saturate the subjects. We can see a man, women, and a child. A naked couple stands on the left, facing a mother holding a child in her arms. In the background, 2 girls are seated, holding onto one another. Just below them sits another naked figure, her head between her knees, as her hair pours down onto her shins. The male figure here is modeled after Picasso's late friend, an homage to Casagemas. He's standing upright, with a peaceful look on his face. His left leg is stepping forward and his finger is making a pointing gesture towards the mother and the child, as if to point forward to a future where he could have a family, a child, and a loving mother. What might have been? In this reality, he is not a passive subject that goes unnoticed, but an active one. Picasso gave his friend love, a devoted female leaning against him, finally giving him a happy ending. The best indicator of what Picasso wanted to communicate through this piece is as simple as looking at its name, La Vie, life. One of the things Picasso always excelled at was creating allegorical paintings about universal themes. The subjects here represent the cycle of life, contrasting the secure and innocent world of childhood with the harsh uncertainties of adulthood. Many of Picasso's paintings have undergone X-ray examinations, and thanks to new technologies, we've had the chance to learn more about Picasso's creative process, the world he saw around him, and his internal dialogue. An X-ray examination of this painting revealed that it was actually done on top of an earlier work called Last Moments, inspired by his sister's death. This version of the painting, however, did not sell. Here, we can even see the area where the discolored varnish has been removed. It also showed a birdman hovering over the naked woman at the center. If seen in person, it is actually visible to the naked eye. Picasso made another big change before completing this piece. Originally, he placed himself as the central figure instead of Casagemas. Perhaps in working through the death that had overtaken his life, he used his art to process the final stages of his grief and decided to shift his attention away from himself to instead memorialize his friend. A huge success, La Vie was sold only a month after it was completed. Soon after Picasso completed this piece, he moved to Paris and emerged out of his blue period and onto a palette of soft pinks and earth tones. Following his internal emotional change, Picasso began his rose period. The composition in his paintings changed, yet the air of desolation remained. He found a fresh inspiration, the lives of circus performers, harlequins, and acrobats. He saw and depicted the talented, poor, struggling artists behind the scenes, often in indistinguishable settings, ready in costume, waiting for a person or a call that seems it will never come. The ones trained to give people pleasure, but experiencing none themselves. In reality, he saw himself in them and painted them as a kind of an alter ego. Remember, even though he was making a few sales, his financial conditions had not yet improved. An overlapping theme in these two periods is the idea of the outsider, whether they be prisoners or performers. Picasso showed the flight of people in despair with a unique sense of quiet beauty and supernatural grace. The Rose period is far less known than its blue counterpart, but has greater importance for Picasso's artistic journey and the history of art. The years Picasso spent in Paris helped him learn and absorb from his peers, replacing the drama of his blue period with the elegance of Parisian art culture. Picasso would, for the first time in his career, develop stylistic means that would become part of the Picasso style we're all familiar with. His more abstract works that gave way to his success in becoming the most famous artist of the 20th century. Look at this painting, aptly named Family of Acrobats with Monkey. We can see a young family in an intimate moment. To the left sits a father in a pink unitard. Next to him is the mother in a light blue dress holding their child. Both are looking at the young boy who is wiggling in his mother's embrace. Lower down on the floor is a monkey raising its head to look up at the family. The colorful draping in the background indicates they are in the circus tent, perhaps resting before their next performance. Picasso has carefully placed the figures to resemble a pyramid, like those seen in classic depictions of the Holy Family, of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Saint Joseph. Here, the mother possesses the same elegance and calm, and the father takes his role as the observant yet detached male figure. The child remains playful in both scenes. In Picasso's retelling, however, none of the subjects make eye contact with each other or with us, the observers. It feels as if we should not be here to witness this private moment. This painting is remarkable on its own merits, but also because it helped expand Picasso's mind on how far he could push his art. This was one of the first pieces where Picasso began understanding the power of lines, seen much more strongly in his Cubist period. Like here, he used defined lines to distinguish each of the figures from one another and from the background. Yet there are no lines in the background. He depicted nothing of concrete form here, but instead used broad strokes of paint and only divided the background up in terms of hues. We also don't see any clear horizontal divides, nothing to give us a sense of dimension or depth like those seen in Renaissance paintings. And that's how he keeps our focus entirely on the family. It's interesting to note that this was painted on cardboard. We can even see a part of it coming through here. Remember, Picasso had not yet reached his financial peak and used cardboard because it was cheaper. The cardboard is becoming more and more fragile over time. And so, since his painting's conception, it has been the focus of an ongoing conservation project. The bright colors of the Rose period and his innovation with lines marked a time of artistic growth in Picasso's life. It was not an indication of the end of his depression, however, as many believe. In fact, his feelings of depression lasted until the beginning of his neoclassical phase in 1917, 11 years and 3 art periods after the end of his Rose period. His work began to show his uplifted spirit. We can see a new sense of playfulness, which would remain a prominent feature of his work for the rest of his life. Pablo Picasso is unquestionably one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. Personally, I have mixed feelings about the person that he was and the impact that he has had on the history of art. Essentially, he was a jerk, especially to women, which of course influences the way we all see him. But even if we can't bring ourselves to have empathy for him as a person, we can't deny the significance of his works. No single artist has produced as much work, founded as many artistic styles, or has changed the course of art history more profoundly than him. He devoted himself to creating over 50,000 works of art. In comparison, another brilliant artist, Henri Matisse, whose works we've explored here, produced slightly above 1,000. Even today, Picasso's creations continue to provoke viewers, scholars, and artists. We can see his works at the most prestigious museums in the world. It has been almost 50 years since his passing, and his influence can still be seen everywhere. He never stopped being an innovator, even into the last years of his life. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in supporting my work, please give this video a like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified on all my new content.